Hey, what's going on everybody? It's Wicked Wolf here, and today we're going to be going over Worldbuilder tutorials for a simple 1v1 skirmish map on a throwback known as Command & Conquer Generals, specifically the DLC 0 Hour add-on. And basically what today I'm just going to show you how to texture some things with the map, creating just a simple 1v1 skirmish that you can play. As well as kind of some of the more advanced stuff such as scripting, but the very introductory things where you can create a military briefing that actually works without missing, and how to create a pathway for units to follow, such as cars driving up and down the streets. That's pretty much just what this video is going to be about. Please like and subscribe if this helped you in any kind of way, or if you found this useful. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. So when you first bring up the Worldbuilder, you can start a new map. Here I just set a few settings here. I wanted to set the height to a little bit lower. And then I'm just going to zoom out. The orange is the map borders, which you can turn on by going to View and just clicking on the map borders. So here you want to go into Players, add your skirmish players, click OK. And then you're just going to go into your global light settings. This is just for me. I wanted to play around with the light settings. Here you can change the ambient color, all kinds of things like that. I just wanted to increase the sun so it looked a little bit brighter. It looks better with the theme I'm going for, which is a beach kind of theme. And so now this is where scripting comes in. You go to Civilian, New Script. You can name it whatever you want. I name it brief so that I just know what I'm dealing with for when I'm looking through a ton of different scripts when you get more advanced. Here I'm just going to type out kind of everything for people who may not have their audio on. And basically what I'm saying is, in the brief, you want to make sure that you create an STR file, which you can go into your documents. You go into Command & Conquer 0 Hour. You go into your maps, you find the map folder that you have, open it up, and you simply create a new text document. Open that up, write in the briefing that you're going to do. Whatever the caption is going to be the top part, which can be identified in the STR file, and then the actual thing that you want to say. So in the scripting part, you just go to if true, yeah, you want it to be true, so then you go through. Those are just conditions to allow it. So you go into here, briefing, show briefing. Here I'm going to type in whatever my caption. Usually you type this caption 1, caption 2, but I'm just going to go ahead and make it simple. Thanks for watching. Click OK. Just another side note is that it's for 1 second equals 1,000 milliseconds. So if you want to show for 10 seconds, you're going to have 10,000 in that value. So I did mine for 5. I later changed this because I expand on that, and you'll see that when I go to play it in the next video. So you're just going to go into Player 1 Start, put that down in your waypoint tool. I'm going to put down Player 2 Start. You can put them anywhere on the map as long as they're within the map bounds. Now here I'm using the Polygon tool, which is where you can create an area, and right now I'm creating the inner perimeter for Player 1. Now they should match. So if you're Player 1, your inner and outer perimeters should match Player 1. So inner perimeter 1, outer perimeter 1. Same thing for any of the other kind of skirmishes you create. If you're going to make another skirmish and have, 5 people playing, Player 5 is going to have inner perimeter 5, outer perimeter 5. It's kind of straightforward. The numbers just have to match, and the perimeters are just identifying what they can do. So for the computer, inner perimeter basically means this is the area where you can build a base. Outer perimeter is basically telling the computer this is where you should build defenses, like for example stinger sights and stuff. And that's just what those function for. It also helps as perimeter so that when you're creating way paths, which I'll do in a minute, you'll see right now I'm just fixing this right here. Just trying to make it look a little bit more symmetrical. But those way paths are basically going to be where the computer follows, like how to attack your base, how it reacts to the map. Otherwise, it doesn't really know. So another thing, I'm creating a combat zone. So this is basically just all the excess space between those perimeters I'm trying to seal off so that the computer can identify it as this is the area of which people aren't really building but more so fighting. Where if you were to put something like an oil derrick in here, the computer would go and capture it. It also helps with the way path so they know they're going from a combat zone into an enemy base. So right here I'm bringing out the waypoint tool, leave it in there, and the path label center 1. So this is for the player attacking. So player 1 is going to use that path to attack player 2. So if that makes sense, you basically do flank 1, center 1, and backdoor 1. Those are your options. Backdoor 1 will be a backdoor attack. It's usually the third attack if they have a different wave going from a computer. Flank, same thing. So here we're going to do flank 2, and center 2, and backdoor 2. I even caught myself when I was making this that I put flank 1 instead of flank 2. So here's me correcting that, making sure that it's right. Now what we're going to do from here is I'm just making sure that everything's within bounds, that it's coming from the combat zone and going into the base so that the computer knows how to attack. You can get more elaborate and you can have a string of those paths together as long as they're connected and labeled as the right thing. So if I wanted to make a specific way for them to come from their base and into mine, you could. I just wanted to make this very simple so it's easy to follow. So now what I'm doing here is applying a supply dock so that the computer can use a supply dock. You go basically into your things tool, your object list, and you're going to go into civilian. You're going to go into the folder, and then you're basically just going to go into the supply dock. It's all alphabetic and it's pretty easy to follow. Right now I'm just texturizing some of the map, trying to make it look a little bit more than just bland. Give some texture to this. I'm dropping down, making a little bit of water. Since I'm going to go for more of a beachy kind of feel, something that's just kind of more water based. So basically manipulating everything. Most of these tools have details in them on how to use them, so it's not really a problem. It's more of just you just gotta get used to using the tools, understanding what changes what, and kind of how that works. For me, I just learned making a bigger tool, bigger filter radius usually saves me a lot more time. And so now that I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and start bringing out my palette. I'm looking for a beachy kind of theme, so I'm going to go with this grass. I'm just going to dump it on the map. And then for this, I'm going to color around the water, kind of make it look a little bit different. I don't want it that big, so let me change that real quick. Okay, so now I'm just going to do the edges. It's sand. I'm going for a sand transition right here. So I'm just trying to get a little base line of what you want to do. You can change it however you want. Just don't over transition. And what I mean by that is when you're actually modeling this and you're trying to make it scenic, you do not want to have like 2-3 layers of transition where it goes from sand to a different sand to a halfway grass, halfway sand. It's just easier just to have a little bit of a more synonymous transition. It's not, you don't want it to be overkill, basically. Now I'm just alpha blending this out, and then correcting some of the things that I see that need correcting real quick. A little bit of the cosmetics and aesthetic kind of views, we're just kind of fixing that up, making it look a little bit nicer. Notice that I don't really care about what's outside that orange line because once again it's a map boundary, so it doesn't matter, you're not going to see it. So now I'm going back into the object list. I was going to just pull up the individual trees through the subree, but instead I'm just going to go through and use the quick way, which is just the tree tool. Let me pick out a tool real quick. I'm going to go with that. Okay. So this, I'm just at 50-50 or whatever I set it to, and then I'm just kind of making it around the map, making sure that I turn it off so it doesn't go into the water or anything. And then just making it kind of go together, clean this up a little bit so it doesn't lag as much. And then I just want to make sure I don't have any trees in my command center. because that's what I want to avoid. Okay, so now that you have some trees and you also have kind of your map setting going, the rest is pretty much, at this point, you could technically be done. If you want to finish right here, that's totally fine. You have a playable map. But I'm going to go ahead and show another part, which is just going to be creating a road. It's going to be a very simple road. And then I'm going to clear up those trees because you don't have trees and roads. And then I'm going to show you basically how to create a car path or how to make objects move along a certain waypoint path. It's pretty straightforward. Waypoint tool in its essence is just a path tool for objects or for players, anything like that. So just understand the difference between that and the polygon. Polygon is creating an area versus the waypoint, which is creating a pathway. So here I'm just picking out the big rig. These are civilian vehicles. One thing to note is that vehicles change in speed. You can manipulate that in the map NII codes, but for the simple purposes of this tutorial, you just want to pick out some cars. You can test them out, change them, whatever you want to do. So let me just kind of get a few more. I don't want it to only be like 1 or 2 cars, or you're barely going to see them in the map. Alright, so now I have some of the cars going. I'm going to go ahead and start on their car path. So I'm just basically taking the waypoint tool, keeping it on the road so it makes sense, so that it's wherever they're going to follow. If you want them to go off the road, you can do that. You can play around with this as much as you want. And for the purpose of this, I'm just going to keep it on the road. And then once they get past that map boundary, it doesn't matter. I can have them do whatever I want. For this, I'm just going to have them circle back around and go the other way, so I don't have to make multiple paths. I'm just going to have one circle basically. I'm just going back through here. One thing to note is if you're making a turn with objects and the waypoint tool, you pretty much want to make smaller turns, especially if you do something like a train, which I'll show later in a different video. But for the cars, they're pretty good about making that turn. Now you're just going to name the path label car path. You can name it whatever realistically. If you wanted to name it runway or whatever, you could. It doesn't matter as long as you know what that path name is. Now you have to go through and individually click on every car or unit that you want to move along a waypoint pathway. So for these, I'm just naming them whatever. I'm going to name them car CP1, whatever I want. And that way I can identify them in the scripting tool. It's the same for the path. Okay, so now I have them done. I'm going to go into Edit Scripts. I'm going to go into Civilian, New Script. I'm going to name this Cars, so I know what it is. I'm going to keep it true because I want them to run automatically. I'm going to go into Unit. We're going to go into Move. And we're going to set to follow exactly. You can set it to just follow if you want, but I prefer exactly. It's easier. Now, I've identified the car and the path. So now I'm just switching all of the different cars. That's why you named them. And they're all following that same path. Now, if you had 2 different paths, you would have the corresponding cars that you named follow the corresponding pathway. So if I had them just going down on the left and up on the right, and those are 2 separate pathways, then I'd have 2 different script paths for 2 different cars. So it'd be like, for example, the big rig at the top would switch into car path 1, and the ones at the bottom on the right side would switch to car path 2. But since it's connected, they only need 1 path. Now I'm just saving this so that I have a name. Alright, and we're going to go ahead and transition to this screenshot here. Now this is me going back into the editing tool and the scripts, and I'm just switching the milliseconds to 15 seconds basically, or 15,000 milliseconds. And the caption you can see, "Thanks for watching," is what I opened up in a text document and I put in as "Thanks for watching" as a caption. That's how it identifies it in the STR file. You can name it caption 1, you can name it whatever you want as long as those two match from the scripting page to the actual text SDR file. Now in quotations, that's what's going to play. Now the \n is a break. You'll see what I'm talking about when I transition in the next video to the actual game. So I have put here, thanks for watching, \n, if it helps, blah, 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 blah. There you go. And then at the bottom, you're going to just put end, and that's it. Save. When you hit File, Save As, Map.str, and switch it from text document to all files. That's important, or it'll only save it as a text. Alright, well I hope that helped. I know it was a little bit fast, so you can slow it down, go back, do whatever you need to do throughout the video. If you have questions, feel free to ask. I'm going to be uploading the next video of the gameplay. I'll link that into the description below so that you guys can watch the actual skirmish map that I just created in real time.